This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Debra Green's our special guest, endlessenergybook.com. Debra, with all the negativity that is around everyone these days, what can we do to protect ourselves against negative energy?
Well, that's a really good question. And, you know, we tend to think of like making a barrier to protect ourselves, and it's really not the best protection. Interestingly enough, the best protection is to not have the negative thoughts or emotions to begin with. And that's because these negative thought forms can't affect us unless we already have a resonant frequency within us. If there's not resonance, the thought forms actually bounce back like a boomerang, and they go back to the sender.
So it sounds like that's what karma is. If what goes around comes around, and paybacks are...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge part of it. I mean, there's different types of karma.
Right.
But yes, that is a huge part of how, you know, we do end up getting the consequences.
Now, would this also be the same way that we use a positive energy to manifest things in our lives?
Yes, because like attracts like. And so if you want to have positive things in your life, then you need to attune your energy system so that it is resonant with those positive things. And I know this is easier said than done, okay? I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, just do this, because I know that it is much easier said than done. And, you know, in the book I have all kinds of tools and exercises and techniques for people to do this more easily, but I really don't mean to make it sound so simple or so easy. But yes, tuning yourself to the higher frequencies, doing your best to not go into the lower frequencies, and using, you know, your willpower and other internal senses in order to accomplish that. It's a very, very good way to work. And will itself is vibrating at a pretty high frequency, and so you can draw on that energy to help. But there are other ways of doing it as well. I'm just mentioning that one.
Debra, we've run out of time for this hour. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can get a copy of your book.
Just go to endlessenergybook.com, and it's all there. More about me, and you can get the book from the website, and you can do all kinds of things. You can join an intent group. You can sign up for some energy tips. You can schedule a session with me.
Excellent. Debra, we'll have to have you back because you're a very interesting lady, and we still have so much to talk, but I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I am so happy that everything turned out great for the wonderful people who live on the Hawaiian Islands, as that tsunami was heading from Chile out your way. Blessings to each and every one of you. Take care of yourself, and thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight. We really enjoyed having you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Take care of yourself. Exonation, when we come back, Andre Van Heerden will be joining us. We're talking about government conspiracies as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, all around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network and X-Zone Broadcast Network. We'll be back after the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour. Don't go away.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st Century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st Century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st Century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. Debra Green is my special guest to this hour, Exo Nation. www.endlessenergybook.com. Debra, what are these energies you talk about in your book?
Well, most people are familiar now with Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Right. And what that means basically is that everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies, and that includes us, humans. But we don't tend to think about that in terms of us humans. And the fascinating thing about humans is that we occupy multiple planes of existence simultaneously.
You mean
and
we're
it's
just
one of the things that, pardon?
You mean we're just not here on this planet? Well, I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You're in Maui, and we're actually on other planes of existence at the same time?
Yes. I'm not talking about other planets. I'm talking about other planes of existence. And once, it's actually will make sense once I explain it a little bit more, because what it means is that we have a physical body, we can see it and touch it and taste it and sometimes smell it and so forth. So we have this physical aspect to us, but that exists on the physical plane of existence, but then there's much more to us than that. We also experience emotions, and that emotional plane of experience is a separate, distinct vibratory frequency that we occupy, because emotions are different than physicality. And we also have the possibility of thinking thoughts, and so our mental aspect exists on the mental plane, which is also a distinct frequency band. And then we have another dimension to us, which I refer to as the universal body, and we occupy that plane of existence as well, and we do all of this all at the same time. And that's one of the things that makes us so complex. And what I'm talking about here is actually an energy continuum, where the dense physical is one of the lower or lowest vibratory frequencies, and then this continuum goes up incrementally to the emotional frequency band, which is sometimes also referred to as the astral plane, and then the mental frequency band, and then the universal, which is sometimes referred to as the spiritual realm. So we occupy all of that all at once.
Amazing.
And it is. It's really cool. One of the cool things about us.
And yet it seems that going back to the 60s, when we had the growing hippie movement, they apparently knew all this back then, and it's taken us nearly 40 years to finally catch on.
Well, yes, and to actually have working models of this and to verify some of these things with, of course, the rigorous research. And that's all happening now, and it's very exciting. So that's what I talk about in the book.
Wow.
I talk about these various planes, and I refer to us as human beings who have multiple bodies. So we have a physical body, we have what I call a vital body, we have an emotional body, a mental body, and a universal body, because each one of us occupies these planes in a distinct and unique way, and thus the body.
Well, would we also have a spiritual body, or is that the universal body you talk about?
Yes, that's the universal body. And I purposefully chose not to use the word spiritual in the book, because these energies are not, I didn't want to have any kind of religious connotations, because these energies, they're not something that you believe in or don't believe in. They simply are. They exist. So I chose the word universal to stay away from any kind of anything that sounded religious in any way. But yes, might as well say spiritual.
Am I to believe that the brain does not produce thoughts and emotions?
Yes.
Now, please explain that to me.
Well, it's true. Most of the time we tend to think, and conventional science, which is very physical-based, is, telling us that our brain, does all these things, but in fact it doesn't. And it is a big quest in hard science right now to try to discover how the brain produces consciousness. And that answer has yet to be found, and that answer will never be found, because it doesn't work that way. The brain does not produce consciousness. The physical brain is actually an organ of receptivity. Our brain actually receives information, receives energies, receives thought forms. And it's like a high-powered antenna. That's the best way to understand your brain. It's like a high-powered antenna, and it doesn't so much produce thoughts and emotions, but receives them.
Receives them from where?
from the time-space continuum.
But what's generating our thoughts from there then?
Well,
you see, an antenna is a reception tool. But in order to be an antenna, it means that something that has been predestined, or in our build-up or in our makeup, we've been, according to what I'm trying to understand here, is that we're receiving messages from outside of our body, and you're saying this is coming from the universal.
Yes, well, let me explain, because first of all, we have to understand that I heard you say outside of our body, but again, when you think of us, we have to understand that we're not a physical body. That's point number one. Our physicality actually constitutes a very small fraction of who we are or what we are. We are not physical bodies. We are way more than that. We are energy beings in essence. So when you put the whole picture together, when you understand us within the context of this energy paradigm, we're not a physical body. We are energy beings. And when we say that the thought forms, we're receiving them into our physical body, we're actually receiving them into our energy field. And the energy field of an individual extends out, depending upon the person, but it extends out at least for approximately 12 to 15 inches or so. And I'm not talking about the aura here. I'm talking about the actual energy field. And so the thought forms are received into the field. And yes, we do also produce thought forms, but the point I'm trying to make is that most of the thoughts that we think are not our own.
All right, but if we are pure energy, why do we have a physical body?
The physical body occupies the lowest spectrum of this continuum. And you could think about this, in terms of a good example to understand it is to think about water, because water also has this capacity to change form and to exist on these multiple planes simultaneously. If you take water and you lower the temperature and freeze it, the water, which is once liquid, becomes very solid, rock-hard ice. Right. It's still water at its essence, but it is changed form. You heat it up, it liquefies, it changes form. It's still water at its essence. You heat it up even more, it begins to boil and vaporize. It changes form again into a vapor, but it's still water at its essence. Eventually, that vapor evaporates into a humid kind of air. It changes form again. You can't even see it.
Right. Water can be either a solid, a liquid, or a gas. Right.
And we are like that. So we are occupying these, it's all energy. It's all energy. And so we're occupying these multiple planes simultaneously. And we have a physical body because it allows us to experience on the physical plane. If we didn't have a physical body, we could not have that experience. So it is purposeful.
Okay, so what is the purpose of experiencing the physical plane if we don't have to?
The purpose of experiencing the physical plane is so that we can imbue this physical plane with consciousness. And that is something that is unique to human beings. We have the capacity for consciousness. And that's part of what we're doing here. We are bringing consciousness to this planet. Through our physical experience.
All right. So are other living entities on this planet as well then? For example, animals, birds, insects, fish, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But if we have the ability to remain as pure energy, why the necessity to have a physical body? Because that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, you see, the difference between fish and animals and plants and birds and human beings is that those other life forms that we just named, they do not have the same capacity of consciousness as we do.
How do we know that?
Well, because human beings have the potential to self-observe, to be conscious of themselves. And animals, which is one of the higher life forms that we know of, do not have that capacity. My cats, for example, I feed them, and if I didn't stop feeding them, they would keep eating and they would become very fat. My cat does not have the capacity to look at itself and go, "Gee, I'm gaining some weight here. I think I better stop eating for a while."
And yet,
it does not have the capacity to do that.
All right, we've got to take a commercial break. I disagree with you on that point, by the way.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it more when we come back from this break on the other side of the news as the X Zone continues on the Talkstar Radio Network and on the X Zone Broadcast Network from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Debra Green is our guest. Her website is endlessenergybook.com. We'll be back after the news. Don't go away.
It was a terrifying experience.
I thought we was going to go to jail for murder.
That day, we were a little behind, so we worked until it was starting to get dark.
We loaded up the equipment and hadn't driven very far when we caught glimmers of this glow coming through the trees. I urged Mike to hurry up and get up there.
Travis had the door open before we even stopped. As he got closer, I heard the sound.
One of the guys said, "You feel that?"
I really panicked then.
I told him, "Get the hell out of here."
It didn't come directly to me, it came to a deputy sheriff.
Three of us volunteered right away to tell him what had happened.
Sheriff Gillespie definitely didn't believe it.
He says that we better be certain because we get in a lot of trouble.
When we went to search the next day, they split us up, and the whole time the deputies asked me, if you just tell us where the body is, we can all go home and get this over with.
We're talking about 100 people combing through the wooded area. Nothing turns up.
All week long, I've been hearing they're going to set it up to make you guys look guilty.
We're a rough-looking bunch then. Some of us have been in trouble with the law before.
And y'all ain't never going to come out of that jailhouse.
We couldn't get out.
I tried to sneak out the back door the day of the polygraph test. I was scared to death.
On top of that, you have media.
I literally would be on two telephones at the same time.
We've even got some coops in here now that's coming in and out to see the freak show, as they call it.
Everyone descends.
I just wasn't going to stand there and listen to it anymore.
Grant, he says, "This is Travis. I'm back. I need help." When I did hear that he had been returned, it was almost as unbelievable as the original thing.
I just looked at my mom and says, "I told you we didn't kill him."
Travis Walton reappeared after several days with a bizarre story about a ride in an unidentified flying object.
People were desperate to explain it away.
Why are you sticking up with Travis for all this time? You know this really didn't happen.
What happened to Travis after we took off in that truck, I can't tell you.
I hated Travis for a long time after this. My whole world just tore up.
But I believe every word Travis said about it. He's never lied to me about nothing.
It's a net negative. We lost our jobs in the immediate aftermath.
And now you're not able to talk about it with anyone because you know that they're going to laugh at you, they're going to look at you like you're crazy.
But if you don't come out and tell your story, somebody else is going to tell it for you.
There's a degree of responsibility. But certainly I have to accept the bad. If I can direct what's happened in a way that I can make something good happen in the world, I'm looking for it.
Order your copy of Travis, The True Story of Travis Walton, today at www.traviswaltonthemovie.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge, breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder-president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Debra Green is our special guest. Her website is endlessenergybook.com. Debra, before we went to the commercial break, you used you were using the example of your cat, that your cat, will just eat. It's not aware of its weight and so on and so forth. And I said I disagreed, and this is why that I said I disagreed, because if we're all together, if energy is universal, then it only makes sense that the cat, the dog, the fish, the bird, anything on this planet that is alive is part of the same energy. So if it's all part of the same energy and receives information from outside the body using the brain as a receiver or an antenna, then we all must be the same. That's the only logical point that I can come to, and that's all I was trying to say.
Well, it's I'm talking about different gradations of energy. It's not like it's just a big energy soup.
Okay.
There are these different planes of existence or levels of experience or frequency bands or dimensions to this energy. And so, I don't disagree with you. We are all connected and we are all one. But when we go into it a little bit deeper, we understand that it's not just one energy. There are like subsets of energy. There are these frequency bands, and different people and different animals and plants occupy these planes differently, and that's all I'm trying to say.
All right, that makes sense. Tell me how, then how does this impact what we tend to think about our physical body? What is it? Is it an empty shell? Is it just a storage receptacle for this energy?
It is, and it's a vehicle of experiencing on the physical plane, and it's a housing unit for these other energies. That's how to understand it. And I mean, the important thing to understand about the physical body is that we're not just physical. We have these energy aspects to us, and in particular, the physical body has an energy component called the vital body, or sometimes called the etheric body, and that's what powers the physical body. That's what animates it. And if we didn't have that vital body woven into our physical body, we would be a corpse. And an interesting side note is that it's the major difference between conventional Western medicine, which understands the body as just a physical thing, versus Eastern medicines or alternative medicines, which understand that we're not just a physical, we also have these energy bodies that are a counterpart to the physical. And I think one of the reasons conventional Western medicine missed the energy bodies is because Western medicine developed largely through the study of cadavers, which means they were studying corpses, dead bodies. And when you're looking at a dead body, the energy aspect is no longer intact. But if you're talking about living, breathing human beings, we have to understand that we're not just physical.
So if a person is sick, all right,
mm-hmm.
You go to see a Western doctor, he gives you a prescription, or there's surgery performed to remove or to repair the ailment. How does that differ from energy healing?
Well, the difference is if you're working with somebody who is an energy practitioner, they would understand the physicality, the physical symptoms, as being reflective of what's going on in these other energy bodies. And so you don't make a lasting change in the physical by just altering the physical. You make a lasting change in the physical by altering the energy bodies, because the energy bodies are what is playing out in that physical. You see, the energy exists before the physical. The energy bodies predetermine what happens in the physical. The physical body is just the stage where these energies play out. And so physical symptoms are just the playing out, the extension of energy imbalances in these bodies. And that's one of the reasons if you have a physical ailment and you do something to take care of it, so many times it can come back again. And that's because just treating something on the physical level does not get to the root cause of what's going on. The causal level is the level of energy.
So what would be cured using energy healing?
Well, that's a very good question, you see, because by the time something is playing out on the physical level as a chronic kind of disease, that becomes very challenging to repair on the level of energy, because by the time it's playing out on the physical level as a chronic disease, it is quite far along. Energy medicine and energy health approaches work much better preemptively. They work much better in staying tuned into what's going on before, in order to prevent things from playing out on the physical. balancing the energies beforehand. That's the domain. And I'm not anti-Western medicine, and at all. I think it definitely has done many good things and has its place, but there's so much that Western medicine cannot address, and that's because of this energy piece. It's missing, and it needs to be brought back into the picture. And then so many questions are answered. I mean, phantom limb phenomena, just to name one right off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Western medicine has absolutely no explanation for why a person who has their arm, for example, amputated would continue to experience pain in the missing arm. And 80% of amputees experience this. Western medicine has absolutely no explanation for that. It doesn't make any sense. But if you bring the energy body into the picture, you come to understand that for every physical body part we have a vital body part as well. So I have an etheric arm in addition to my physical arm. And if my physical arm gets chopped off, my etheric arm is still there. And because it's energy-based, it is continuing to send its messages of energy and information to my brain, and that's how I can experience pain in a missing limb.
Then why doesn't the energy body heal the etheric so that the pain doesn't persist?
That's a very good question. And to understand that, we have to go into the etheric body a little bit more. The etheric body is an interface. What does it mean to have an interface? It interfaces between the dense physical and the other energy bodies. And so why does my vital body not repair my physical so I don't have pain? Mm-hmm. Well, it's probably because there's something going on in the other layers, in the emotional, in the mental, in the universal. And so you have to look at those as well, because you can't just see the etheric or vital body as itself, because it's an interface between the physical and the other energy bodies.
How does energy affect our emotions?
Well, our emotions are energy.
Well, if I am sad, is that energy, or is that an emotion that has been triggered by an event that has happened in my life?
Well, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, it's both. Yes, events in our life do trigger emotions, but emotions are energy. I mean, we can't see them under a microscope. They don't exist on the physical level, but you know and I know that emotions exist. We experience them, and we're starting to see the effects of emotions under the microscope, so to speak, through some of the new biotechnologies. You know, some of the scans that exist now. I mean, you can actually watch how the physical brain and body changes in response to people's emotional states. You can see that now.
I'm well aware of that. And
it's the energy of the emotions that's changing the physical.
Is it all right? So, would you consider the body's electromagnetic and electrical field as the energy that you're talking about?
No, we do have, bioelectrical magnetic components to us, but those are still on the physical spectrum. And in addition to that, there are these other energies that are not on the physical spectrum, and we don't have technologies to track them yet, except for us, in a way. I mean, the human being is the most sensitive apparatus on the planet that we know of.
But I thought you said a few minutes ago that we could monitor these changes by present-day medical scans.
Yes, in the physical, we can.
All right.
But we cannot, there's not a technology that exists that can track just the emotional. We check the evidence of the emotions in the physical, but we can't just, point something at somebody and track their emotions.
Cause and effect.
Exactly.
Right.
And the physical is the effect.
Mm-hmm.
The energy is the cause.
Thought. Right. How do thought forms work?
Well, how do thought forms work? Yes, I talk about this a lot in the book. Thought forms are fascinating. They're produced by the mental body. And different thought forms behave differently.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you'll have to stop me if I get on a roll here. But
okay.
So there's these different types of thoughts. You can have thoughts about things. You can have thoughts about people,
mm-hmm.
Yourself, about others, and about no one in particular. And each one of those, categories of thoughts behaves differently. Thoughts about things tend to conjure up thought forms that look like those things. If we could see the thought forms, we would see that these thought forms are like little pictures of whatever a person is thinking about. If I'm thinking about a beach on Maui, my thought form resembles the beach on Maui. Thoughts about one's self tend to hover around. If you're thinking thoughts about yourself, those thoughts hover around you and they stay in your energy field. And thoughts about other people travel through space-time to the person that you're thinking about. Thoughts about no one in particular tend to just hang out in the atmosphere, and they radiate a frequency and attract resonant thought forms to them. So if there are no resonant frequencies, those thought forms eventually die. But if there are resonant frequencies, they grow and they can become enormous the more they're fed.
And what happens with them when they become enormous?
They influence. They have a huge influence. And that's one of the reasons that it's so important not to feed fear, for example. Fear is a massive conglomerate thought form it's permeating the planet right now. And if we could see it, and if we could see how we're all feeding it, and in turn, there's a reciprocity there, because the more we feed it, the more we get influenced by it, and it becomes very difficult to get out of it. And that's where we have to make conscious choices not to participate in something like that.
Interesting, truly interesting.
It is. And there's more about thoughts.
Right, we've got to take a commercial break in about 1 minute. What can you tell us in a minute more about the thought forms?
That if you think thoughts about yourself,
mm-hmm.
negative thoughts, and then you get busy with something else, you forget about it, you get on with your day, and then at night you're trying to sleep, and suddenly all these terrible thoughts come in. We tend to think that, where did that come from? Well, oftentimes it came from us, because they hover in our field, and then in a passive moment, when we're not focused on anything else, they come back in. So that's a very important thing to remember. And the other thing is, if you really want your thoughts to reach their destination, if you're thinking about somebody else, the determining factor in the potency and lifespan of your thought form is concentration. Develop the power of concentration. Very, very important.
Stand by, Debra. You and I have to take our final break. Exo Nation, Debra Green is our special guest. Very interesting young lady. Her website is www.endlessenergybook.com. That's www.endlessenergybook.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and X-Zone Broadcast Network.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. And welcome to the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. For the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. The show is then repeated in its entirety from 2 until 6 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, the X Zone Broadcast Network, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates and family members across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Australia, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X Zone Nation, my first guest tonight is Debra Green. And Debra has dedicated her life to studying and mastering the realm of human energy. She has worked with thousands of clients and taught hundreds of workshops. Author of the acclaimed book, Endless Energy, The Essential Guide to Energy Health. Debra is an engaging instructor, a dynamic presenter, and a sought-after practitioner. She started her energy health practice in 1993 and is the founder and developer of Inner Clarity, an integrative balancing method that uses energy kinesiology to pinpoint hidden core beliefs and a variety of energy-based techniques to facilitate conscious transformation. Joining me from the beautiful island of Maui is our very special guest this hour, Debra Green. And Debra, welcome to the X Zone.
Aloha, Rob. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
It's great having you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to the field of energy.
Well, I'm one of those individuals who's kind of highly attuned, and you could say my life drew me to this realm of wanting to study these subtle energies because it's something that I've tended to be aware of and just wanting to understand more about, and so my experience drew me into it, and it's not something that is that common in the mainstream, and so it took me on this path of journeying into wanting a scientific understanding of something that's not typically scientifically understood very well.
You raise
it's been a wonderful journey.
You raise a very interesting question. Why isn't energy more mainstream than it is? Why is it just in certain genres, including the New Age and New Health genres, that people talk about energy?
Well, I think it's because our experience of these subtle energies it happens inside us. It's a very subjective kind of thing, and you can't study it very well with the scientific method, which is all about studying physical matter and studying it objectively with some kind of separation between the observer and what's being observed. And when it comes to subtle energies, that's impossible because these energies are highly responsive to us, and our apparatus for apprehending them is our internal, what I refer to anyway, as our internal senses. And then you can't separate yourself. So it's kind of a conundrum.
But over the next hour, you and I are going to do our very best to try and tell people who may be tuning in for the very first time somewhere on this great big planet of ours all about energy, and we're going to be talking about your book, Endless Energy, The Essential Guide to Energy Health. Debra Green is my special guest this first hour of tonight's show for Monday, March the 1st in the year 2010. This is the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and X Zone Broadcast Network. Once again, if you'd like to send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our toll-free worldwide number is 1-800-610-7035. Debra Green is my special guest this first hour. Her website is www.endlessenergybook.com. And Debra and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away, we'll be back in 2 minutes.